I'm Tim Ellis. Thanks for joining us for Laneway Live. Tonight's special guest is nothing if not versatile. He was born in the UK, holds a New Zealand passport, and lives in Australia. He's a comedian, a street performer, a juggler, a cruise ship magician, and an Ozzy Osbourne impersonator. Please welcome Nickolas. Nickolas, where are you? You look like you're in your romantic setting with the Vaseline all over the lens, going to do a bit of a Mills and Boon or something.
Yeah. Well, that was another video I just had to shoot. You know, you've got to earn some money somehow. I'm in Melbourne. I've just got back to Melbourne. I was out in the Grampians for a couple of weeks in the country there, 300 k's away, and I've just come back to Melbourne to grow my beard.
Well, you were detoxing up there?
I just went up there because I went all quarantine. I got a house up there, and every year I do a master cleanse fast. So I just thought that's a good time to do it. So it's 14 days of I eat nothing.
You eat absolutely nothing.
The master cleanse is for your energy substance is maple syrup. It's a drink made out of lemons, maple syrup, cayenne, and water. And that's what you drink. And then in the morning, you have a couple of pints of salted water. And then you make sure you're near a toilet for the next hour or two. And I did I did 14 days. I normally do 10 days. I did 14.
And you feel good after it?
Oh, I feel fantastic. And your energy levels right up there when you're doing it. I was out in the garden cutting down trees and full energy. It's just a mental thing, really. You've got the energy. It's just a mental thing of you're not eating.
Amazing.
And it's called the Master Cleanse. Stanley Burroughs invented it in 1940 something.
Okay.
The Lemonade Master Cleanse. You can look it up.
We'll put a link down there so people, if they're interested, can find out. Do a bit of exploring.
I've been doing it for years. I do it every year. I've been doing it for years. I normally do 9 or 10 days, but I went, I do 14.
Suits the quarantine.
So I just did that, yeah.
Yeah, this is quite a change because, I mean, people who've known you from back in the day, they know a very different Nickolas.
Yeah. Well, I used to party quite a bit, yeah. But I could drink I could have a nice drink and whatnot. And I just changed my stuff around and stopped drinking, stopped smoking, and feel good for it, yeah.
And was the transformation partially because you were moving from the street shows onto ships and corporate work, or was it just a personal choice?
No, it was just a personal choice, Tim. I just, every year I'd stop drinking for a bit. I'd just go on a health kick, and I just went for that. And then after a few weeks, I went a bit longer, and I was like, oh, this is good. And on the ships, as you know, the party in the crew bar at $1 a beer can get quite large.
Yeah.
You've never been a partaker in that, but I have, and it can get quite large. And it was like, well, this is going to get a bit crazy here. So now I treat the ships like health camps. I eat well, I train every day, and I watch shows.
Yeah, I have watched. I don't think we've ever been on a ship together because very rarely do we.
No, magician, no.
Yeah, but I have watched your adventures on the ships, and you are just like a machine. You are out there at the gym every day, and it's amazing. I can't keep up with that sort of pace. How do you do it?
Well, my attitude is the gym is only an elevator ride away, or whatever, if you want to walk the steps to the gym. But and then I just go to the gym for an hour a day, a couple of times or whatever, a period of time a day, go in the sauna, go and eat some good food, watch a show, read, write, do a show. And, it's a bit like lockdown, really, isn't it? Apart from we don't do shows in lockdown.
It's very much like lockdown.
But yeah, I treat them like health camps, and it's good. And at the end of the contract on a ship, you check your bar, but you go to check out and you go, oh, I've spent, nothing, or I've spent $400 on an hour of internet, whatever.
And then you get back to shore. Do you continue with the regime you started, or is it back to?
No, I'm straight on the meat pies and chips.
It's funny because the people on the ships, That's what they're eating. They're eating all the junk food in the buffet. They're very rarely as health conscious as the performers.
Yeah, yeah. So the ships has been good for me from the streets, coming from the streets, of course, doing that for many, many years, and partying a lot. And then, so it's good for healthy, health-wise, it's been fantastic. And creatively, I love the ship, being on those ships, working the theatres. On the street, I've done many different shows on the street I started street performing when I was 15 years old, which is 37 years ago. So I had a set show. I ended up with a set show, beginning, middle, and end. It made money. It did its thing, but there was no creativeness. But on the ships now, it's great. You've got lights and music, and you're always thinking of new things.
Anorexic dog. What's that word? Measure.
He is one of the finest sleight of hand magicians anywhere in the world.
AMONDS, 3 times. Take a banana, any banana. Is that your signature on that playing card? Well, look, it's the same card. Thank you very much.
And now, well, we're just, on holiday, basically, aren't we?
Holiday from holiday.
Yeah, we're on holiday. That's it. But I am getting a bit edgy. I don't know how you feel and other people out there feel. Like, I haven't done a show now for, this long, but maybe 5 weeks. And the last one I did was I did the firefighters on the Serenade.
That's right.
Yeah, that was a 1,000-seat theatre, standing O. So that was the last year, already as good as your last show,
Yeah,
So,
but it's a nice one to finish the set on.
Yeah. But I'm getting a bit edgy because this is probably the longest I've ever not done a show.
Well, my ex-brother-in-law was on that ship. He's a firefighter, and he said it was a great show. It was a fantastic cruise. So for those who don't know, is it Celebrity who did it?
No, it was Royal Caribbean. It was on the Serenity it was on a big royal ship, yeah.
They basically gave a whole cruise away as a thank you to the firefighters and all the services who were helping put out the bushfires. And so all these people got to go.
They did. I think 3 of them in the end. It was a big ship, 5,000 passengers, I think. And they were in Asia, and then they had to leave Asia because of the COVID. So they came to Australia, and it was really smart. They gave all the firefighters a free cruise. And so that's 5,000 times 15,000 people.
Yeah.
Gave them a free cruise. They still had to buy their beer and whatnot. And then they would have therefore loved the cruise and the idea, great marketing idea. Make a bit of money, get the people for future cruises.
Well,
and the audience are fantastic. They were phenomenal crowds, yeah.
But regardless, it was just a really nice thing to do anyway.
Oh, it was a wonderful thing they did, yeah, of course.
And so that was the last cruise you were on, and then the virus hit, and you just
that was the last gig I did, and I came off that. And that was a cruise to nowhere. It was just 4 days, Sydney to Sydney.
Yeah.
And then I came off that, and I was meant to be on another one that got cancelled. And then last weekend I was meant to be at the Fremantle Street Performance Festival, which is the biggest street performance festival in the Southern Hemisphere. I was really looking forward to that, but that got cancelled. And I think I'm meant to be on one right now, which got cancelled. Anyway, we're on holiday. I'm just treating it. You've got to be positive, right?
Yes.
I'm on holiday now.
You're not in your pajamas, are you?
No, it's a shirt, Tim. It's a shirt.
Well,
I think I have slept in it. I don't think I have slept in it,
So do you think, this is what people are talking about, they're thinking, when will the cruise industry come back? Because I was talking to some people the other day who said the cruise bookings for future cruises has never been better. People are going berserk booking for future cruises, which surprises me, and it probably surprises you. But if we do get the cruise industry back, and it's not going to come back, in June, like a lot of people are thinking it's going to come back, but if it does come back, I think for a while there are going to be a lot of those Sydney to Sydney type cruises and just cruises around one country, because I don't think many countries are going to want cruise ships from other countries just popping in.
Well, I just got offered one yesterday for next year, Tokyo to Tokyo.
Yeah.
But I think that's going to be the difficult thing, is when countries won't want people coming into their port without a 14-day quarantine. So my theory is exactly what you're saying. They're going to do that. Yeah, it'd be like Australia to Australia, or New Zealand to New Zealand, or that sort of idea.
Yeah. But I don't think.
And then it might be also no vaccine, no chip, no cruise. It might be that, we don't know. At the end of the day, we don't know. But what I do know is I'm on holiday right now, and I'm having a good time, and it will come back. Like street shows, I could normally go out and do street shows. You can't do street shows, right? You can't. The thing that makes me sad, that's got me a little bit, funny in the head a couple of times, is right around the world now, there's no one can watch live shows, whether it's comedy, theatre, music, rock, roll, street performing. It makes me a bit sad, because I love the fact that people can watch live shows. Yeah. And now that doesn't exist.
Yeah, it's very much that way. And I have my theatre here with my retirement plan. I thought, if I get sick of going on the cruises, if the corporate shows dry up, I can have a show here in my home. I never thought audiences would disappear.
Well, my thing was always the streets.
Yeah.
I performed on the streets since I was 15 years old. And and I've always said it's the most secure job in the world, because I can go anywhere with a bag of tricks and get a crowd and make some money. Or I can go into a bar and hustle a bar. But that doesn't exist anymore.
Well, let's reminisce a little bit. What you started on the street when you were 15, out there just performing, doing all sorts of crazy things. And I know I've seen a lot of photos. I've seen pictures of you in a tutu in, I think, Covent Garden. I'm not sure where that was.
The tutu, yeah. Well, I started off with a head chopper. I think you could put a picture up of that.
You started with
when I was 15 years old. That was when I was 15 years old. I had a head chopper, and that was my first ever street show. I made 10 pence, and I was about 15, and I went out and I did the Lincoln Rings. I did the head chopper, I did the head chopper, the Lincoln Rings, and I banished an invisible handkerchief, and then I had 2 handkerchiefs with a bit of fishing line in between it, and I made 10 pence.
And what did you spend?
That was my first. On? I don't know. I can't remember. I was underage, so it wouldn't have been anything illegal. Probably my bus fare home. And that was my first show in America. When I was 18, I went to America. I bought a one-way ticket to the other side of the world, and I had a bag of tricks, and it went from England. It was on my first aeroplane. And I ended up in New Orleans, as they say over there, New Orleans. And I did a show. I was staying with a friend of mine who I'd met in London. He was Jose Torres. He was a balloon twister. And he said, go to Jackson Square and make some money. So I went, okay, that's where I've got to go. So I got the tram, the trolley car, they call it there, and to Bourbon Street. And I'm looking for Jackson Square. And I had a little couple of bucks on my pocket, and a load of confidence in my head and my heart, and a bag of tricks. And I'm walking down Bourbon Street, and then this guy came up to me. I'll never forget this. I was 18, and he said, "I'll tell you where you got them shoes," in the American accent, black kid. And he went, "I'll tell you where you got them shoes, man. I'm from London. I knew there was something up, but I couldn't work it out." And then he went, "If I tell you where you got them shoes," how do you go? He goes, if I tell you where you got them shoes, if I tell you where you get them shoes, you give me $5 for a shoe shine. If I get it wrong, I'll give you a free shoe shine. You're a fair man, I'm a fair man. We did the hand slap thing. And then I'm thinking, what's up? And then he said, "You got your shoes on your feet, Bourbon Street, New Orleans, Louisiana, United States of America. That's where you got them shoes." Then the next thing I knew was my foot was on a step, and he'd pull a rag out of his pocket, spat on it, and shine my shoes. And he said, "This is traditional New Orleans spit shine. That'll be $5, mister." And I didn't have $5. I had maybe $3.25 in that was it. So I gave him everything I had, every cent, and I said, "Don't spit on a man's shoes. I'm not giving you a $5." So I had zero now. So I'm now on zero. I was 18, looking for Jackson Square. I get to Jackson Square. I see people around, and I went, "Okay, I'll do a show." I got a bit of a crowd, and then this brass band walked through, which Jackson Square's New Orleans famous for, maybe a 40-piece brass band. So they stripped my crowd, of course. There's me, 18-year-old little magician. And then they stripped my crowd. So then I had nothing. I made nothing. So my first show in England, I made 10 pence. My first show in America, I made nothing. I had nothing. I didn't even have a quarter to phone my mate up to say, "How do I get back to your house?" And then I had some balloons, twisty balloons. So I stood on the corner, twisted some swords and dogs and flowers, and made a little bit of money. Went back, on my way back to Jose's place, told him the story, to which he said, "I should have warned you." I said, "No, I'm quite happy because I've made my money back."
Yeah.
On that. Like, I tell you where you got that shirt. I tell you where you got them glasses in bars or whatever. I've made my money back, and I've got a story to tell for it. And then I made some fire eating sticks.
Yeah.
I went out on Bourbon Street at night to do fire eating and stuff like that. Then I got closed down by the cops for that because no fire allowed, not allowed to perform on night. So I'd spent my money on the fire stuff, tried that out. Shit hit the fan then, so then that one got closed down, and that was all. But it was what it was. New Orleans.
Did you end up going back into the bar and doing the shoe hustle on a few people and getting a little bit of?
Not in New Orleans, but I have done that since in places. No, I ended up making enough. Hustling, whatever, doing shows, I made enough to get myself to the next stop, which was San Francisco. Which there I met a guy who put me up, and I was performing on the streets of San Francisco. Well, and I got arrested. I got taken to jail there because, I was doing that was a winter in San Francisco, and I was doing a show on the sidewalk outside the Anchorage shopping center, straight jacket and chains. And I was all chained up, and then the crowd started on the other side of the pavement, the other sidewalk, and then it took out the road, Fisherman's Wharf. I don't know if you've ever been there. And so I had a crowd over the whole of the Fisherman's Wharf, over the road. So that caused a traffic jam. Then the police car came into the middle of the circle. The cops came out. I'd finished the show. I put my hat out. I made whatever I made, some dollars. And then the cops threw me into the cop car. So now I'm in the back of a cop car. My friend, who I know from the ship, Sean Lachlan, I don't know if you ever met Sean, he was there working the streets, and he gave me the phone number of the phone box, which was right there, because there was no mobiles, of course. So here's a phone number. And I got in the car. I had all my bags packed. I had a false ID on me because I was under 21. And I'd working illegally. I caused a traffic jam. Oh, blah, blah, blah. And I started talking. I don't know what I said to him. I started talking. They took me to the station. I'm there, and I just started talking. And a couple of hours later, they drove me back. I was driven back to the spot where they dropped me off. My bag was nicely packed. I was in the front of the police car, and I got out, and Sean's like, "What happened?" I said, "I don't know. Let's just have a beer." I don't know how. So that was after New Orleans. Then was San Francisco, and then it carried on. But I'm still here.
I think your most popular, or I guess your favourite spot is Covent Garden, though.
I started off in Covent Garden, when I was 15. There's a fantastic spot for street performing. Yeah. The community was fantastic. There was great acts there, all really weird, really back then, which was the early 80s. It wasn't just juggler on a unicycle, juggler on a unicycle. There was strange acts. One guy used to go out in pajamas and an empty suitcase, and his act was he borrowed a $5 bill, pretended to eat it, Then inside his suitcase, he had an invisible snake. Got the crowd to say, "Here's Snakey, Snakey." Pull out nothing. Hypnotize the snake, so it was like this. Swallow the snake. Have the bill in his hand. Pull out the snake, and there was the bill. It was a 40-minute show. Another guy stuck his head in a bucket of water, and escaped from the electronic police while dressed in a wetsuit. A 40-minute show. So I was around watching all these bizarre. Another guy, Billy the Bean, he's dressed in some sort of superhero outfit, and he had a can of beans. And the whole premise was Billy is trapped in the can of beans, and we got to get him out. And then he got a kid with a sledgehammer to smash the beans. The beans went everywhere. He looked around for the bean, pulled out the bean, and went, "Hey, Billy!" 40-minute show. So I grew up watching, and there was great magicians. Duncan Trillo was doing a 10-minute magic show. Leo Ward was doing a 10-minute magic show.
On the ship.
Dave Brown was doing a fantastic show with a very innovative magician. There were magicians, there were some jugglers, and yeah, so I was 15 years old, discovered that, and that was it. I started doing shows and found my way out. Before that, I was doing kids' parties on my bicycle, just going around the neighborhood on my little bicycle with my box of Nifty Nick Fungira, I called myself. I had a little suitcase I painted up and then bungeed to a bicycle.
And then
so a bit like you started off doing kids shows when you were a kid.
Not on a bicycle. No, not on a bicycle.
Oh. No, but you were like you were making money when you were like 14 doing shows, right?
I did. I've got a poster which says Timothy the Magician, and I think the shows were $10. I was under a high price market. I was.
Yeah. That was good. Well, I never charged. Yeah, I think I did my first ever paid show. I did with my friend. His name was Brian Davenport, actually, and I don't know whether he was a relation to the Davenports. Yeah. But I remember he was my mate at school, and he had an old suitcase from his granddad with some magic tricks in it. So he might have been a relation. Anyway, we became friends, and we did a show together. It was my first paid show for the Brownies, the Cubs and the Brownies. You have those here, right? The Brownies.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we got paid 10 pence each, or 10p between us, or something like that.
Wow.
And
you've also done a lot of work in stand-up comedy. You've done a lot of corporate work with stand-up comedy, but you've also done one of my favorites, which was your Ozzy Osbourne impression.
Yeah, I got into the Aussie. Yeah, I did stand-up, Tim. I lived in New Zealand for 10 years, and I'm the only guy ever to become a New Zealander as a magician. I don't know whether you know that. That's how I became a New Zealand passport holder.
Oh.
I liked New Zealand. I thought it was a lovely place. I realised I didn't want to live in England. And then I got what I call the Immigration Bible, the book and it had all approved occupations in there. Doctors, lawyers, police. And it said magicians, clowns, acrobats. And I went, well, I'm a magician. I'm going to become a New Zealander. To which then I went to the immigration office. They said, do you have a degree? No, you don't have a degree in magicianship. And the lady said, how does this work? And I said, I don't know. It's in your book. You tell me how it works. I'll give you the information. And long story short, 4 years later, I got a New Zealand passport, and I'm the only guy to become a New Zealander as a magician.
Yeah.
But when I lived there, I was doing different shows, but I started doing stand-up there. And my rule was I wasn't allowed any tricks. That was my personal rule to myself. And it scared the shit out of me. But I would win, I would lose, I'd try different things out. And that was a great learning ground on now when I do my shows. I do tricks other people may do, your sign card appears somewhere or whatever. But I've done a lot, I have done a lot of stand-up. So my brain is got a different sort of thing to it than someone who maybe hasn't done so much. And then the Ozzy Osbourne thing, which came back by accident, because at that time I had long hair.
Yeah.
And the Ozzy show was on TV all the time. And I looked like Ozzy Osbourne. And so I started doing a bit of an Ozzy Osbourne thing. That's where we first met, wasn't it?
That's right.
At your 20 years ago at the Melbourne Magic Festival, or I don't know what it was called then, was it?
Well, we had met before then, but you did do your Ozzy Osbourne specially as a special request at the Magic convention that we held at the the Ivanhoe Town Hall.
Yeah, that's where it was. Yeah, the Magic Convention. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think you won a couple of awards, including Best Line of the convention as well.
Best line for the tennis ball thing. Yes, yes.
And the tennis
So
ball
that's become a bit of a
trademark.
signature thing.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen you get standing ovations on the ships from just saying, you know, this is what you want to see. Tennis balls. They love it.
Yeah, and then I've had for the people who don't know, I have a running joke through my show. I'll tell you in a minute where that came from. But when I bounce a tennis ball and everyone cheers, so and then at the end I do the cups and balls and produce loads of tennis balls, and it links through. And that came about when I was in Oslo. Was it Oslo? Yeah, Oslo. And I was doing some street shows in Oslo, and the Norwegians are a tough crowd. They like the shows, but they're quite like this, staid or stoic, probably the right word.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there with a friend of mine. We're just sitting in the gutter, on the street, going on the street. And there was a tennis ball just there. And I was like, oh, look at that. It's a tennis ball. I'm doing nothing, just sitting there. And I picked it up, was playing with it. Then I went to do a show. When I started my show, I got a crowd and did a trick. The thing about magic is when you do a trick, there's always a pause before they clap. It's an intake of breath because they're wowed out, yeah?
Yeah. And
so I would do something and they get wowed out and I'm like, oh, and they wouldn't respond like an American audience or an Australian. And so I said, oh, look at this. And I bounced the ball and I bounced the ball and I said, look, I can get the same reaction from bouncing this ball as I can from cutting this rope and making it come back together or whatever. Yeah. And then that became a thing. And before it became a thing in Norway, then maybe a week or two later, a guy came up to me and he said, we'd like you to do a show for the Norwegian Magic Circle. And I was like, oh, I'm a bit scared, you know, it's a bit scary to do a show for magicians, as you know, because they know what's going on. Mm. And I went, oh, okay, I don't know what to do. He goes, I want to see exactly what you just did. I want to see it in our magic circle. I went, okay. So off I went to the Oslo Magic Circle. And I thought, well, they want to see exactly what I did. Well, part of a street show is the hat line, which I weave in between my tricks, rather than at the end just say the money line. It's a subtly woven in thing. So I did the whole thing in the Magic Circle in Norway, and I put my hat out at the end. And at that time, I was producing oranges from the cups and stuff. And then, so I hatted the Magic Circle in Norway, put the hat out, and the first person who came up was Finn John. And he dropped in, I don't know how much, maybe equivalent of £10. I don't know how much. He dropped in some money. Then afterwards we were talking, and he'd just done a thing with vanishing tennis balls. And I was saying, oh, I've had this funny thing going on with a tennis ball. And Finn and I got chatting, and he gave me the way to vanish a tennis ball. And yeah, I'm not going to go how to do it, but if you know, you know. If you don't, you don't. And I went, oh, that's fantastic. So he gave that to me. And then that became what I have now, as I'm known as a tennis ball guy. Yeah. Because I vanish my tennis ball that I bounce near the end just vanishes in thin air, and then all they come out of the cups. Yeah. So that's quite an interesting story.
Yes. Now, the other interesting story is your connection with Louis de Matos Festival.
Yeah, the Louis de Matos, which I guess most people here know, Louis, wonderful guy. He does a festival. He first saw me at FISM in Sweden. You were there then, weren't you? Mm-hmm. In Stockholm. Yeah. Yep. And I was doing some shows there. That was the biggest collection of street magicians in any FISM. Yeah. It was myself, Gazzo, Kenny Lightfoot, Cellini. There was a lot of us there. And me and Louis saw my show. We got chatting and stuff. And then he said that he'd been doing street magic festivals in Portugal, where he lives, in Coimbra, Lisboa, and around Portugal, where you get good magicians, some real street performers, and some who are magicians doing shows on the street. So Lewis had these festivals to promote the art of magic. He's a big supporter of magic. And we did shows. I've done it 2 times, maybe 3 times now, get invited over there. We don't put the hat out. We just pays us a nominal fee, flies us in. And there I am on the street. I'm doing shows with Gate and Balloon. Me and Gate and Balloon shared a pitch. I mean,
Amazing.
how cool is that?
Yeah.
And then we all go out for dinner afterwards, and you're hanging out with all these fantastic magicians. Kevin James was there one year, and we're all learning from each other. And we had some fantastic shows in Portugal. And you didn't have to worry about the hat. You're just doing your shows. And of course, Lewis is very well respected over there, as he's the David Copperfield of Portugal, basically. And when he started in doing magic in Portugal, he was telling me people just looked down on magicians. They were like the vagabonds or whatever. So he was the one who carved the way to promote the art of magic in Portugal, and still does with the Essential Magic collection, which is fantastic. And so, I went over there, and I was going to go last year. What happened last year? I was invited last year, but I had a ship come in already. A week before I got invited, a ship had come in. And then this year I was going to do it this year, but of course, this year we're on lockdown. No one's going anywhere, right?
We are.
But that was fantastic. I mean, to share a busking pitch, a street pitch with Gate and Bloom.
Amazing.
And who else was there one year was Leonard.
Leonard Green.
Leonard Green was there. Yeah, me and Leonard hung out a lot.
He's doing street shows.
And then he sat at a table, did some street stuff, and the people are up for it, because it's not like they know there's a festival; they're actually there. And then we did a show. Here's a funny story: we did a show in a prison, so we had to do this show in a prison, and there's lifers in the prison. These people, you're checked on the way in. It's the full real deal, and we're doing a show, and I was at the back. I'd done my little set, and I was at the back watching an act. I can't remember the act, and I was with JJ. Do you know whether you know JJ? He lives in Portugal now, English guy. And we were at the back, and this guy gets a prisoner up. And these guys are hardened criminals. They're still in there now. They're full lifers. And he's doing a sponge ball thing with this guy. And JJ and I looked at each other and said, he's going to try and get that guy's watch using the sponge balls as misdirection. And I can't remember who it was, right? It was a bunch of us doing the show. And he went for the guy's watch to do the watch steal using the sponge balls. And the guy, you're not going to get a watch of a lifer, right? It's not going to happen. He didn't get it. The guy turned around. There was no violence or anything, but it was just so funny seeing the magician get busted. I mean, if he'd have got away with it, it would have been fantastic. But it just see the magician go for the watch, do the watch steal, and the guy just sort of turned around. And so, we did shows in prisons, and we did it's fantastic, Lewis's festival over there. Yeah.
Well, I know Lewis is part of like an amazing history of magic in Portugal, but you have created your own dynasty, the Nickolas dynasty of magic now, with your new show, Boondoggle.
Please welcome to the stage Ruby T and Nick Nickolas in Boondoggle.
Let's have a look.
Scotland, look
Sleight of hand is absolutely fantastic. The tricks they do, I'd highly recommend it.
What a great show. They're so professional, and Ruby was just adorable. It was a really great show. I recommend it to anyone.
Really good, really couldn't work it out.
Oh, thank you, Tim. I did a show at your Magic Festival, which is wonderful, the Melbourne Magic Festival. I did the show 2 years ago by myself, Gobsmacked, I called that one. And then last year, I thought, I've got to do another show now, because I've you know, I'd done it once. I won the award, didn't I, 2 years before, the comedy award.
Yeah.
I went, well, I've got an audience now, so I do another show. And then I was going, what can I do? Got to be something different. And I told to my daughter, I said, Ruby, do you want to do a show with me? And she was 11 then. She's actually 12 tomorrow. But and she went, yeah. She was like, yeah, sure, no problem. So then we wrote a show called Boondoggle. And we called it Boondoggle because boondoggle is a word that means doing something that's a complete waste of time for moral and financial gain. That's what boondoggle means. And so Ruby and I did the show together, and it wasn't like me and an assistant. It was two characters with a backstory, and it was funny because she said to me, Dad, I want to do this trick, and it was the Professor's Nightmare. And when we were rehearsing things, and I said, no way. There's no daughter of mine is doing the Professor's Nightmare.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
And I said, no, we're not doing that. You know, you might as well do Hippity Hot Rabbit. You know? And I said, but she ended up doing McDonald's Aces.
There we go.
She had a very good Elmsley account, and I said, "This is what so her solo piece was McDonald's Aces. And I had a solo thing like a coin matrix type idea, and the rest was just character-based magic. But at the beginning, I was high status, and at the end, she was the high status, and that was very wonderful. And Ruby loved it, I loved it, and it was very heartwarming actually to do a show with your daughter.
So is there going to be a future in that show? Is it going to continue on?
I don't know really. This year, I was going to take her to London this year. I was going to do your festival this year, but that's all gone up the creek. Maybe she is, maybe she isn't. It's up to her really. She was going to do the school production. School she goes to is very good in theatre and the arts. Mm. And this year, I said, "What are you going to do in the school production?" She said, "I'm going to do lights and help with the backdrop." Because her mother's a phenomenal 3D artist, as you know. So she's got that. So she said, I said, I like performing that, but I want to try being on the backstage, and I want to work out on the lights and do the backdrops. So I was like, okay, great. So
well, you know how good it is.
Whatever she wants to do.
If you can do both, it's fantastic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We're going to have to wrap it up, but I want to finish off by asking, okay, you're on holiday now, but what are your plans? I know at the moment you've got your books that you've got, you normally sell on the ships. So that's
I've got them here. Yeah. You can go look. There we go. I've got 21 easy to do card tricks, 111 greatest jokes, and my DVD.
Well,
and there'll be a link at the bottom. You can PayPal me $20 and I'll send them to you. There you go.
But I mean, apart from that,
what am I going to do?
Yeah, because I mean, obviously, you're going to be rolling in money with books and DVD sales, so you could just stay on holiday forever if you wanted to. But there's the burning desire to get out and perform. So what's next?
I think we all have that, and I am thinking of new things. As you know, I mean, I love the ships. What I love about doing on ships is working those theatres. And I love being able to do 2 different shows. I'm right into this 2 different shows now. So it's 2:45.
Yeah.
And I'm working on scripting a lot, because I think that's what a lot of magicians lack, is they just think it's the tricks, but you've got to have the storyline around the tricks. It's like you're opening with the cards, your diminishing cards. Fantastic. And I just want to have this working on the storyline between the effects. And I'm doing that. So I'm working on new things, and I am tap writing my couple of books.
You heard it
street
first.
Street performance and essays on street performance, and there's one of the I've been writing for the last 2 years on the ships, about the ships. So
that is fantastic. We're going to look forward to those. That's one.
So we'll see. Now I've said it. I've got to keep tapping. Right?
Now we want to see it before the pandemic's over. We want to see them available at nicknickolas.com.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Well, thank you so much.
And it's wonderful what you're doing, Tim. I've been watching some of these, and it's fantastic what we're doing here.
It's lots of fun.
Keeps us alive. Otherwise, you go mental.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You've got to have a goal. Got to have a reason to get dressed in the morning.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I was going to do this in my pajamas, but then I thought, no, I'll wear my pajamas.
Thanks so much for chatting with us. Bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Cheers. See you.